side.
Okay.
Two.
That's weird, Maya. I don't know.
I don't know what to tell you. That's all I got.
I can
Now
tell
I
you
get
all
the
of
feeling.
Yeah.
Now I get the feeling. It's gonna be
Oh
great.
my God, this is
Better?
going to be
Is
amazing.
that
Well,
better,
now
Maya?
your head's cut off,
No,
Roseanne.
just
So
right
I
side.
know.
Sorry.
It's Maya's head.
I think it'll
Gonna
all
talk
work
to-
out because I'm
Right,
I'm
talk-
the one that's recording it, so I guess it'll look like that
Can you
on my
see me?
end. Yeah, I can see you.
Okay.
Yeah, you're all
Then
good. Um,
Maya knows what I look like.
I'm just gonna talk to the wall, and
oh
I'll be all
no.
right.
Welcome to the Integrate Yourself podcast with Allison and Maya. Today we're interviewing Rosanne Ramirez. And she is actually, we've known Rosanne for a long time and known a lot about her. She has two really amazing businesses, and they're really, I'll have her talk more about them. But one of them is a float tank business, and I'd like to actually talk a lot about that because that's really cool and it's becoming really popular. And the other thing is, she is you call yourself a QHHT practitioner, right? And she's also a C.H.E.K holistic lifestyle coach. So that involves hypnotism, right? And we can talk a little more about that and what that means, because I think, it was funny when we were at the Journeys of Wisdom workshop. I don't know. I had in my mind, I knew hypnotism through John and everything, but when you think of hypnotism, you don't really you kind of think of sometimes manipulation. And I think sometimes people don't realize hypnotism can be meditation, actually. You can hypnotize
Yes.
yourself that way. So,
Absolutely.
so welcome, Rosanne. And
you.
thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor. I'm privileged to be here, and I'd love sharing anytime anybody wants to talk about this work. And I say this work is for everybody, and you're right. We know our version of hypnosis with the Journeys of Wisdom, but the version I do is distinct. And though I like to infuse a lot of that background, my coaching background, a lot of inner child work, but you're right, absolutely right, Allison. It is more of a meditative state, and I say we all hypnotize ourselves every day, as you know. So,
Yes, totally.
and it is
Yeah.
like John says, it's holding that space to allow people to hypnotize themselves, because in a safe and loving way.
Absolutely. And I wanted to talk a little more get into detail about how that can be helpful to somebody as well, because someone may hear that and they're like, what does that mean? But before even that, I want to ask you a question that we're going to start asking everybody. We started by asking Brian last time how you like to integrate yourself.
Oh, wow. So everything that I practice with my clients, I practice with myself, obviously. So the float tank industry, as you mentioned, has grown exponentially. But we started the Float Lounge back in 2012. We were the first ones to bring it back into Orange County, California. And being a C.H.E.K holistic coach, we were already doing Epsom salt baths at home.
Right. Yeah.
Nothing like a float tank, by the way, but when we heard about float tanks, we're like, oh, that sounds like the ultimate Epsom salt bath. Having no idea back then, this was 2010-ish, having no idea that the metaphysical and spiritual and intuitive space that was going to be. And so I absolutely am an ambassador of floating and what it has done for my life, and balancing and quieting all that monkey mind and chatter. And it really has been a huge tool and a bridge to be able to meditate. I can meditate anywhere now, whereas before floating, it was a big hot mess. And so
I have heard that. I've heard a lot of people who can't actually meditate or sit up for a long time, or their back hurts. They like the float tank much better because they can just kind of let go. Yeah.
Absolutely, and the environment is designed that way to be completely conducive to letting go, or that you're literally in a surrender position and receiving that, and it's you with you in the most absolute way. And it is our tanks. There's multiple on the market now, but Our tanks are 5x9 tanks. They're enclosed, soundproof, lightproof chambers. We fill them with 10 inches of warm filtered water, and the solution is 1,000 pounds of high-grade mineral Epsom salt. Wow. So that allows for that zero gravity effect on the body. And as you mentioned, I'm not a fan of sitting meditations personally. much better horizontal, and it cradles you, and it's almost it can be a womb-like experience. It could be an astral experience. It could be definitely an inner awareness experience, and on top of it, you're getting a huge dose of magnesium, which most of us are deficient in.
Relax. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So I felt buzzed for about a good week after my first session, and so I knew there was something that far different than anything I'd experienced before.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, let's that's so great. And you guys are based out of Southern California, Laguna Beach. Yes. Yeah. And and the name of your float tank place again is the float lounge. That's right.
Yes.
And then you guys are are you doing another one, or there's another project you guys have going on with that, right? Or
yes. Okay. We purchased a retreat property up in Idlewild Mountains, so it's on the way to Palm Springs, about an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours from Orange County and LA, close enough to desert communities and the San Diego area as well. So it's far enough away that you feel like you're getting away. It's 6,000 feet up, but close enough that you can do a little weekend retreat. And so
that sounds amazing.
We're Jeff, my partner that you know, he coined the holistic playground years ago, and so I said that's what we're going to call it. So it's going to be a holistic rental for other practitioners that would like to use it. It's also going to be a deeper immersion experience, also helping people ground and get out of the cities and that environment, and no Wi-Fi, and get into the mental emotional coaching, the spiritual work. Obviously, the corrective holistic work that Jeff does. He's definitely more the physical practitioner. Right, I'm more the metaphysical practitioner.
Well, and that's why I wanted to have you on the show. That's why Maya and I wanted to have you here, because we wanted to talk about the metaphysical and get into that. So I'll kind of start that off by asking, you about what you do and how you help people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is, and I'll just keep going. So you just ask and interrupt whenever, because that is what I love to talk about. That's what I love to experience. That's what I spend my time coaching myself in, is more the multidimensional space. And like I said, if it wasn't for floating, I wouldn't even know that was even a possibility for what the work that I was doing for my own personal healing, but also getting to share that with others. And we have clients. We have 12-year-olds that float. We have 82-year-olds that float. I say it's for everybody. If you can lay down for an hour, you can do it.
Right? Yeah, that is definitely for everybody, for sure. Yeah.
Right. My first float was a complete coaching experience in a matter of minutes. Oh, wow. And I got in the tank, and I didn't realize how controlling my ego was until it was in there, and my ego was like, no, I can't breathe. I can't do this. I'm freaking out. I got to get out. I was creating anxiety for myself and fear. And then all of a sudden this voice came in, and it was me, but she was clear, and she called me on it. And she said, look, Rosanne, logically, it's 10 inches of water and you can open that door anytime. It's not the tank, it's you. She said, how you do anything is how you do everything. If you're creating fear and anxiety in here, you're doing it out there all day long. And I was like, damn. I am.
Got me.
So as I said, the tank's like a little feedback machine. You can't escape yourself, and that's the best gift. And so it was very reflective and very immediate and very insightful, and also very relaxing. I allowed myself to let go, and I just heard breathe, and after I let go, I had a beautiful, amazing float. I got into that deep meditative state that I had never been able to get to on my own by trying and by doing meditation, which I realized was not how you actually participate in that space. So then my father, who passed away 17 years ago, he shows up in my float, and he's hanging out. I can see him clearly. He's holding my hand. We had a complete conversation, beautiful reunion. And I came out of that tank and I was like, this is some kind of portal. I don't know what this is, but it's this beautiful, safe space that allows you to go to those spaces. So it's called a think tank. It's, it's a reset button. It's grounding. It's detoxifying.
Yeah.
All the physical properties, but like I said, the metaphysical properties, that's really what captured me. And on my second float, I heard the name of the float lounge. I heard I was going to be opening the float lounge.
Wow.
And we only floated maybe like 3 or 4 times before we opened. So we were definitely guided, and we just thought there's got to be other people that'll be into this too.
And
not
you're right.
knowing that the industry's grown over 300% since then, and that coupled with the coaching that I was already doing back then, with the subconscious work and the inner child work, and then when we had opened, I had heard about Dolores Cannon, and she had been given this style of hypnotherapy, and she worked with it for over 45 years till she transitioned back in what was that, 2014, I believe. And I found out about it right after she transitioned. I was like, no, I'm supposed to work with this. I'm supposed to work with this woman. Like, this is it. So I told my partner, Jeff, well, if I can't work with her in the physical, I'll work with her in another way. And she wrote over 20 books, and he'll tell you the story. The next day, this huge Amazon box showed up, and he didn't see me for 3 months. So I dove right in, and I heard that voice again and said, you should be doing this, Rosanne, because I delayed becoming a practitioner myself. And what I love about it is it's really allowing the client to become their own channel. They already have all the answers, and as you and Maya both know with your own clients, you're reflecting back to them what they already know. Their soul knows all of this. We've just forgotten, and we're remembering now. And to have something a little more tangible for them, so they can hear. I record it for them, and they can hear their own voice, counseling those other parts of them. And it's really that, I call it source consciousness. It doesn't have a name. You can call it creator, source, oversoul, highest self. Whatever, it'll come through for every single client. And sometimes it'll show them a alternate life, or what may look like a past life, even though source says it's all here, it's all now.
Right.
There's no time, no space. And so it depends on where the client is in their journey, what they'll receive, because source is never going to give you something that's going to blow your ego apart either. And it's very loving and very neutral, and very clear, like that voice I heard in the tank. It's very, very clear in its guidance and its direction and its feedback. Like, well, this is why your back hurts, or this is why you had to go through.
Yeah.
It's beyond. And I have physical practitioners that know everything about the body, integrative specialists, and they'll still come in with something, and source will be like, that's because their shoulders is the root cause is they don't know how to receive, or they keep injuring their foot because they're not walking their path. And
that's so interesting. Yeah,
they get,
I love that
the
stuff.
information comes through. Oh, it's exciting, because I never know where their higher self or source is going to take them, or what they're going to see. And so I'm on that journey with them. I just hold the space and call it in and guide them. Like you said, it's really a guided meditation, visualization, accessing that right brain hemisphere, which is our creative side, our creator side, and our childlike side, and quieting and bypassing the left logical ego mind. And so even working with clients with addiction, because that's the addictive side, that's the part of us that
the left side, you're saying? Or logical. Yeah, that makes sense.
I was surprised when they brought me my first client, and who's going through recovery, and I just checked in with source. I'm like, is this in the highest and greatest good? And they said, that's why we're bringing her to you. And she went under beautifully, and she came out, and she didn't have tremors anymore. She left peaceful, she left calm, but it wasn't me doing anything. I never claim it's me. I just say, use me as your vessel for the highest and greatest good.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope, right? We take on a lot when we say stuff like, the guru, right? So I know.
Little did they know. They're like, you agreed,
right? So, and the body being a symbol for things that you're not acknowledging spiritually too is really interesting to me as well. But I know Maya had some questions for you, so I'm going to just kind of let her I'm going to turn it over to Maya for a quick second if she has anything to add to this conversation.
Well, I just thought about what you said about in terms of how the brain works. And what I wanted to know is, have you noticed a lot about people understanding the gamma waves versus the delta waves and where they're at and how they're connected to where we are in terms of our endocrine system? So there's a lot of things that associate with things like that. So have you gotten into knowledge of that with this work?
Most of my clients are coming more from like the third dimensional questions, like, am I going to get married? Am I going to get this job?
Right.
And so
yeah,
Source will give them what they can. I do have clients that know more about that. But again, Source is like, your body's not real. Your body's an illusion. So, I mean, I've had clients with paralysis on their body that were able to move the next day.
Interesting.
That when I asked Source what's wrong with their body, Source is very clear, very neutral, said nothing's wrong with their body. The body is an illusion, but we use it to get your attention because it's very effective. And this is where we store things. So yes, they will answer those questions, but like if I ask, like, why does this person have colitis? Source doesn't operate at that level. It's like, why is there disharmony here in this part of the body? They'll tell you the root. They'll say that was an impact and energy that it left from a past life or an alternate life. That's also your emotional center, they'll say, and that is unresolved issues with mom and dad in this lifetime. So they're very specific, but they keep it very neutral because most clients are not going to come in with necessarily that awareness. But because it is your highest self, they will speak to you or give you imagery or guidance in the best way that particular client receives it. So if I invited Maya, they would have a whole different conversation with Maya.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah.
She can understand at that level, so they will use her languaging to get her attention.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
That's
Which
cool.
I understand a lot of it in terms of we are always in a hypnotic trance. I think what I noticed most about this hypnosis work is that we really want to know how the body is working. Even though the body isn't a temporary vessel, it is an existence that we have to honor. And so when we take that idea that it doesn't exist, some people, I find, will get caught up in that and say, well, I'm not my body, I'm not my emotions, I'm not my all this stuff. But then it releases them into a space of where they're having some disconnect of how to work within their body. And so like, it's great that the hypnosis will bring you to a point of releasing some pains and some issues that your higher self already knows that you're not there. But cognitively, what I've noticed is a lot of people have to go to that instead of doing it within themselves. So like if you took someone in through and like what we would try to do with ourselves when we try to take that knowing, okay, I'm acting out on something's triggered me or the trauma has come through me, that somewhere I need to self-help myself. And so, so like a lot of these great tools are how do you integrate them into your life in a way that you can kind of take a moment, breathe it in, focus, connect with your higher self, your guidance, and then come through without having to go through this whole series of, hey, I don't know how to handle this, I need help, So that's where, I kind of really hope that people will take all these wonderful tools that are out there and show more ways of how they can integrate it and utilize it themselves.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. And I agree with the whole topic of the show. It's all about integration. That's my favorite word because whether it's a float tank or, hypnagogic light, a sound healing, a QHHT session, it doesn't matter because and Source will say that too. I'll say that as a practitioner. If you're not going to integrate the work, then that was just a fun ride. That's all it was. It was just an experience.
Right, exactly.
You have a memory maybe of it or you completely dismiss it. And Source will say that too. If you're not going to integrate this, then there's no point. But they specifically bring me clients that they know are ready to do the work. I don't really even advertise for what I do, and yet they find me. And Source will also not relieve them of their physical discomfort or story if it still serves them. If they have not completed that lesson, then there's no point in releasing it, because it still serves a purpose. Like you said, Maya, it brings them back to, oh, I got to work through this now. And so and I do bring up the inner child in a lot, because that's a beautiful place. They're already in a very relaxed and receptive space to connect with their inner child, and I'll bring them in. And I mean, I've had sessions where we didn't even talk to Source. It was all about their inner child, and huge releases and powerful, powerful shifts. And so that is really the key to what I've discovered in this work, is that's the key to ascension. If you can heal that, that's leaps and bounds over many modalities I've practiced.
So you brought up the other thing that you provide is the light, the lucid light. You want to tell them a little bit more about what that does and how that works?
So we're very honored to have be owners of the Lucia #3 Hypnagogic Light Machine. She was invented by a neuroscientist out of Austria, who also was co-developed with a psychotherapist from New Zealand. So it is all about balancing the left and right brain hemispheres, which hypnagogia is putting you into that theta brainwave state. Much like floating or going into deep meditation, it's a highly accelerated meditative tool, I said. So it's basically like a lamp feature above. We put it above the third eye, because it's helping to decalcify the pineal gland and also activate the client's own natural production of DMT, or dimethyltryptamine, in the brain. And so they have a feel-good response. They're clear. Some people come out feeling buzzed, high, happy, subdued, calm, relaxed, grounded. So again, it gives you what you need, because it's you with you. But it's all energy and light frequency. We're all energy and light, and it's really quite simple in when you look at it. It's LEDs and halogen. The LEDs emit more of a cooler white tone. The halogens more of a warmer, deeper white tone. But it's all about these programs that these scientists and doctors developed, and the programs will pulsate at multiple different frequencies. Your eyes are actually closed during the session, and we give you noise reducing headsets. So it's quite different in regard to the float, as this is light and sound and float's dark and silence. But I say it takes you to very similar places, because it will relax the body and the mind, and get bypass the mind chatter and the monkey mind, and really get the client into that deep theta state. I've heard laughing in people's sessions, crying in people's sessions, physical body releases, release of pain, discomfort. I have clients that use it for anxiety, stress disorders, sleep disorders, as it's balancing all of that. As you know, if there's imbalance here, there's an imbalance here.
Absolutely.
And so there's only about 12 in the United States right now. It's obviously based in Europe, so it's a lot bigger out there. But if we were looking for something complementary, but something that also was as much of a visceral response for me as the floats were, and my first light experience. Again, I go into these things, I know nothing about them, and they're like, come here, try this. They were doing a tour in the United States, and they had set it up. This was a few years ago, back at the Float Lounge, and my partner had set it up, and I got under the light and closed my eyes. I'm like, holy heck, are my eyes open? Are they closed? It was so visual, and
wow.
You'll see colors and patterns and fractals and sacred geometry. It's like being in a giant kaleidoscope effect, even though it really is only white light frequencies, and everybody sees something different. And I usually go into a lucid state or hypnotic state or meditative state, and I tell clients, go past the light. And eventually you won't see the light or hear the music, and much like in the float tank, you won't even know where you are. And it allows for you to get, sometimes even more deep insight. Some clients have had out-of-body experiences, visualizations, lucid dreams. It definitely changed my dream state after working with Lucia, and I still use it. Probably more than floating right now, because I have.
So that's the question, I guess.
Take a shower.
Yeah. Who would you use that with, as opposed to like you would suggest the float tank for? Or Or do you
has
suggest that
both.
for everybody, both of them, usually?
I mean, they're both amazing. I do have some clients that gravitate more towards floating, and some that gravitate more towards the light. But like I said, they're so similar in their results and what they're achieving with clients that I would say the majority do both or couple them together. So you can do a light and a float combination together at the lounge,
Oh, that's cool.
and so what I have noticed is clients that are more anxious, I would lean towards giving them the light because it's easier for them to be with themselves. It's a little more of a distraction to get them in that
Yeah,
space.
that's what I was thinking
Versus
too. Yeah.
dark, yes, dark
Yeah.
and quiet. There's nowhere to go. You're with
Right.
you, and
You
so,
have to be okay with that. Um,
yes,
well, okay, yeah, that's really amazing. I'm going to have to go out there and try that at your
yes,
place when I come back out to the
anytime.
San Diego area. So I guess the next question I wanted to ask was kind of to hit, or I guess reopen the hypnosis thing. So how do we hypnotize ourselves when we say that, because when I first heard that, I was like, what does that mean? But really, that's what hypnotism is, right? Nobody's
Yes,
really doing it to you, but we have the illusion of that happening, right?
correct.
So, like,
As you know,
but
with John,
yeah,
yes,
of course. But sometimes we're even in a hypnotic state just living, right? And then we think we're in hypnosis, but we're actually getting out of the hypnotic state. So I don't know if you want to like
absolutely.
elaborate on that a little bit and your
Sure.
experience on that.
And it was interesting because John was really Journeys of Wisdom was really my first experience with traditional hypnosis or just the concept of hypnosis and realizing, like you said, Allison, you're absolutely right. We're in and out of different hypnotic states all day long. And like Maya mentioned, we'll go into delta, alpha, theta multiple times throughout the day.
Right?
And and so I remember one Journeys of Wisdom session. It was out here in Carlsbad, and I asked John. I said, "Could it be possible that we were hypnotized the minute we got here?" And he said, "Oh." Because you know how it's all
Yeah.
about, dehypnotizing people from their hypnotic stupor, and um, and so this is basically hypnotizing people out of their stories to get them into more of their authentic state,
Right.
their authentic truth. So it is a very natural state. I mean, you could even say going to sleep is a version of hypnosis because but you're allowing it, and that's the distinction with my clients. If even with myself, when I first sought out practitioners to experience it, my ego was very resistant because it likes to be in control. So it was
I
like,
can relate.
what? And then I was like, wait a minute, I know how to hypnotize myself. I do it in the tank, I do it under the light. I'm like, I'm very comfortable doing it with myself. So I
Right?
kind of I kind of bypass the practitioner and just hypnotize myself, though I don't recommend that for most people. But it is, again, it's just a tool. So I have the
Yeah.
illusion that I'm, using this practitioner to hypnotize me, but really I'm doing it myself. So I just,
Yeah.
like I tell my clients, I'm just creating that safe space so you can experience that for yourself.
Yeah. I like that.
Which you bring up a good point, which is a lot of the reasons why Journeys of Wisdom seems a great tool to add is that somewhere in between, I think you and I have talked about this before, is when you use other things like psychedelics or you use DMT or you use some kind of inducing factor, that you actually start to understand that you are the inducer. So like even your mental state as going into a psychedelic moment or some kind of, play of the setting, the place that you are in your space, what your intention is, will all factor in. But to even go to one of these smaller tools, you can do the same thing. You can actually induce
Yes.
your own hypnotic trance, and you can experience exactly what it would be like to be on those certain lucid drugs or something. And so when you start to recognize you are the a creator and destroyer and all that observer,
Yes.
there's that part where I think these tools are so more important, because then you have to distinguish about I'm in my body and I am actually of this world, but I'm in the world, but I'm of the world. Like the concept of that is really where I think when you talk about ascension, and maybe you can describe your version of it, but that's kind of what I'm thinking of, what you're trying to help provide people to. So if you could
Oh my gosh, yes. I love my experience of you so much right now, Maya. I'm like smiling so hard. You're absolutely correct. And I have had many experiences with all the above. And I think that was necessary for me to also understand this work even more so. And to piggyback off of what you said, I absolutely agree. We are the creator of our experience. So, and I've coached people that have gone to, that are doing, medicine work or psychedelic work or whatever to achieve those states. And it all comes down to integration. It's, again, they went on this wild ride, and now what? Now what do I do with this? And Maya and I have had, these conversations and these experiences firsthand. So, like, how can, I do that in a way that is, a little easier. It's more graceful. The modalities that I offer, I say this is more graceful tools, but ultimately they're tools, and you are the ultimate tool. So they're just tools until you no longer need the tool, but they're fun tools, and I like using them. But yes, Maya is absolutely correct. Can I put myself into that state without a light, yes, I can. And sometimes it just happens without my knowing or intending. And I'm like, hey, my ego's like, wait a minute. Like, oh, it's too late. And so it is a much more graceful, but it is also empowering, I feel, for my clients to be able to experience this in a safer setting, more manageable. It still has that control factor for them, so they don't feel like they're so out of place. And we know that, how much the ego likes to shame us when we try and disconnect from it. And so
yeah,
Maya and I had that conversation last time we saw each other. So,
well, isn't that the whole thing about with ayahuasca? Like, you're basically, that's what's happening, right? And it's
yes. Yeah. That's the ultimate tool. When somebody asked me, why would you do that? And I said, it is, at that point in my journey, this was years ago, I said, that's the number one tool I have found to bypass my ego, because my ego was so attached and so addicted to my fear and my stories that I wasn't graceful with myself. And I said the irony is my middle name is Grace, so there was no mistake there. But I said, even to my clients, I said, if you have to hit the brick wall and, your proverbial brick wall, if that's what it takes for you to have that result of surrender or humbling or letting go, just like mine, I said, then that too is the highest and greatest good. I'll be here to support you. And either way, I said, these tools are also going to support the same result, but in a more graceful way. And so when I was going through I call it the flames of my own hell. Yes, I said there's got to be an easier way.
I think they call that the dark side of the soul. But
yeah,
okay,
right? I like the flames.
What'd you call it? The flame of what?
The flames of my own hell.
My own hell.
Of your own hell. Okay, I like that one.
That's a good one.
I put that one in there. So.
I said, we're all going to surrender at some point. I say you can white knuckle it to the end, or you can surrender with grace. And so these are definitely more graceful tools, and it's amazing to see the variety and the myriad of different versions of myself I see showing up in my space at the float lounge or whatever. But Maya and I were talking about going so far out there, and the ego's like, what did you do? Like, how dare you? And I did a little light session, and it was only like a 10-minute light session. And I went so far out, and I came back in, and I was like laughing hysterically, and then I started crying, and I'm like, oh shit, I need to call somebody. And I was by myself, and then I heard that voice, who are you going to call? Everybody's you anyway. And I was like,
oh no.
Yeah, it was a full 10-minute journey. Yeah. And so it can be it's powerful.
Yeah.
And when you come through that and you realize, okay, my ego caught up to where I was, and I am everybody, but I am myself, then you can kind of come back into the reality of, yes, this is why we started this podcast, is we really wanted to help people integrate every tool they find and start to implement them, because we feel like if anything, this is a community and we want to create more of that. If you have something that's helping people to find the better part of themselves or reach the connection to their higher selves, then come and just tell us about it, because we want to share what you know and give it to other people so that we can all become a community of integrators, and then basically give ourselves that space is, yes, I can call so and so, or I can, if I'm freaking out, I need you to be who you are, and so that I can claim onto you and be your attached person that I know you be. So these are these like enlightened ways of saying, hey, I can manage what I learn, and that nothing is too overwhelming. So
Absolutely.
Thank you for bringing all this to us, because we really think that a lot of people, have tried things, but maybe haven't tried it, it didn't work, or it came to the point where they did it too fast. I know myself, I ran into spiritual teachings. I ran into everything I could to learn how to ascend or to become enlightened. And all I came back was that burned butt going, ooh, I wasn't ready for someone, but
a bloody mess.
Yeah, and
steer yourself to the
graceful,
point of like,
graceful.
Oh, I'd rather be raised. Thank you. I'm good. I don't need to know I'm all this yet.
Right.
And it's true. We really cannot. What I say was, we cannot spiritually bypass. We cannot rush our healing, and it is the divine plan. And I mean, Maya and we're not alone. I know there's many of us that have tried to, let me rip the Band-Aids off. I'm ready. Let's go. And then I'm like, oh, what was I? No, this is horrible. And so, I think we're also part of that group of volunteers that they speak of, that we're kind of like the way showers and the bridges. So it's easier I'm meeting 20-year-olds. I'm 42. I meet 20-year-olds and I'm like, wow, they're already so aware and they already get it, and they're already so grounded. And I'm like, damn, why wasn't I like that at 20 years old? And then I hear, you would have died. There was no way.
Oh, wow. Because you were just going for it, right? Yeah.
20 years old, there wasn't enough of us. We hadn't found each other yet. There wasn't this community. And thank you both again for having this platform for people to hear and connect. And I'm getting chills. And to
I'm right there with you.
and to communicate, and like you said, to share, because we need that community. And we felt that years ago, and we opened up the lounge not knowing what it was going to evolve into, but knowing that even when I met my partner Jeff, I'm like, oh, he's singing to the plants. Oh, good, I'm not the only one. Like there's other people. You could see that giant thing behind me.
Oh my God.
It was this big when I met him. It was all sad and decrepit, and so there's more of us out there, and there's more and more people waking up and questioning and looking, and I also know for myself, we came here for the experience. We want to experience it. And so as much as I love my meditations and everything, there's sometimes I want to go in and I'm like, I want to experience what it feels like to be in a float or under the light, or I have some beautiful sound healers that I go to, and you want to have that tangible, that feelingness.
Yeah, and it's okay to feel good too, like
absolutely
and enjoy it.
Why are we
suffer? Why
are we here? Yes. We're done with
and I have to say that's probably one of my wonders is if these new generations are getting so connected so quickly, do they have the time to find the richness? And that's what I hope is happening. Yeah. That is, even though they're still getting so much information so quickly, can they integrate it? Do they have the tools to listen and say, hey, you may not need to go down the path that I went to. Try this little shortcut. And if it doesn't have the essence of saying that was my exponential experience. Like I'm not bypassing because someone told me that's a bad route. I didn't go to that route, and then I actually found out that was the wrong information, and I have to go back to it. So like one of the things I hope is that if they're getting this information quicker, are if we talk about souls and how the souls work together, do they have that sense of, I've been there before, I know what this feels like? Because I'd hate for anyone to have that knowing that they've never really dipped their whole body in, right? They can dip the toe in, but they're not there. They don't really feel all that.
And also what I'm coming across, to answer what you're addressing, is there is a lot of the souls coming in now, at least what I'm finding in my QHHT practice is, Source will say a lot of these younger souls, like Allison's children, they're like, don't be so fooled that they're your children. These are
Right.
ancient souls. These are teacher souls. These are very wise souls. Some of these souls haven't even been here before. They're pure. And so their journeys don't need to be like our journeys. So some of them aren't going to have the ego entrapments and have all the stages of awareness and awakening or forgetfulness, and that's by design as well. So
I've noticed that with my
that,
kids. Actually, I have. Yeah.
I've gotten a lot of my parents that I work with, that comes through. I mean, I have one client. They were driving somewhere. Their son was in the back seat, and the parents were getting into it, and the son was not having it, and he piped up and he said, "Look, Dad, I know I'm not your dad in this lifetime, but I have been before, and I've got your number." They're like,
wow.
So
yeah, I mean, Allison,
Awesome.
do you have any stories about realizations of your kids being such empowering souls that they've kind of brought you to an awakening of, wow, that's crazy?
There's
Like,
so many stories, but I think I frequently think that, man, they are so far ahead of where I was at that age, and I mean light years ahead. Like, I'm like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I wasn't, I just didn't have the knowledge and the experience, or even the experience that they have at that age. Like, they just, well, I think part of it is they're exposed to a lot more because of our technology. You think about what they're exposed to, compared to what we were exposed to, which we didn't even have computers. But on the other end of the spectrum, like, like when I'm getting upset about something, or like they are like, "Hey, Mom, what are you doing?" Like, come on, like, relax, and they kind of they teach me all the time. And we actually had this experience, like, I think it was a couple weekends ago at the Portland Farmers Market, and we've always said that, like, I think both of them are pretty much old souls, in my opinion, because it seems like they've been here longer than me. But my youngest, one of the vendors at one of the place at Portland Farmers Market, he sells mushrooms, and Wilson goes and talks to him every week, and he basically said, he's an old soul. I don't know if you guys know that. And we were like, looked at each other like, wow, like, we've said that before, but we had never talked to him about it. And it was just kind of it was just one of those, like, goosebump experiences, like, somebody else sees that too, so, but I think that the generation that's coming up now needs to be prepared more than we were, because they're dealing with a lot more. Like, their generation is going to have to take on so much more than we ever did. I mean, I think all I cared about in college was the best party, Honestly. I mean, think about the things they have to.
Though. I think they're still looking at the party.
I don't know. Yeah.
Is that our parents started, or or you had parents that knew certain things, like if we recognize how life has transitioned into how we interpret, say, so it's like triggers, soul, things like that come into our language as a conversation piece.
Right.
Then it's all about this is a noticing of how these things get passed and easily more accepted. And I love that, because then that means that when you say something, it's not like a foreign language and you have to relearn something, you know. These kids have such a way of saying, I am connected to this idea of the spiritual world and the connection of the physical world, and in between everything else. So, I mean, I find that, you know, what we're really seeing is that progression is really the ascension of acceptability of what we're developing into, whatever that is going to be, you know?
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot of remembrances. So like when I get into those multidimensional spaces, and yes, there's that part of my ego that freaks out about what am I experiencing and what am I seeing and why do I see the multidimensional space, but yet I can still feel myself, so I'm still here but I'm not. And I feel like what you're both saying is that we're being prepared, you know, we're remembering, but it is part of our ascension steps, so we can back to integration. We can integrate it easier. But if they had shown me, or my higher self, or my, you know, my original source consciousness had shown me the things they showed me now, 10 years ago, I would have been in a nut house. I wouldn't have made it.
Right.
No, there's just no way. I wasn't ready. And so I realize everything that we have been through. We put all those little breadcrumbs, those gluten-free breadcrumbs for ourselves.
That's so true. Yeah.
And so one of the other things that I find that I like to help people with is going back to the physical body. And we talk about this with nutrition, and you as a C.H.E.K practitioner also know this is very vital, because all of this takes a lot of energy to even comprehend. And, you know, we want to help structure people on a knowing of how to, you know, understand what their frequencies are of the meals, what's their importance of why the meals are there for them, because you do have to feed the body. And if you go into a spiritual realm hunting for this ascension or enlightenment, you may forget that, you know, some teachings are to create this hypnosis that will allow you to open to yourself. But if you're not prepared, you can actually, you know, draw the life force out of yourself, which is a real problem, because then the health starts to deteriorate. And I don't think people are really prepared for, at least in my experience, I've talked to some people, to dying young. You know, there's a part of us that may die, but there's as we learn into ourselves, and there's those mental and emotional openings. But I think that if you really start to experience body pains and you're really experiencing this drain of life, that you're really touching on things that are really more for you to learn of how to take care of your vessel.
Absolutely. And as you're talking to me, because I say it's all ascension. I mean, if you have to retrain and remember how to feed and nurture and you know, heal your body, then you're going to stay at that level until that state of awareness is fulfilled, and then you can move on to the next state. I absolutely, and I've worked with clients exactly like you're talking about, Maya, that have gone so far into the metaphysical but haven't even addressed the basic fundamentals of caring for their own body properly. And it's like, you can't. And even when I take them to source, because it's like, sometimes it's like, oh, you're just a practitioner, whatever, what do you know? It's like, okay, well, let's bring you to your highest self and see what they say. They're like, she needs to back up. She jumped, and that was like this, you know, she missteps, they said. So we're not going to give her any information until she goes back and she starts and relearns. And I thought, that was one very powerful session, and I thought that was impressive. But yes, I mean, I teach clients about blessing their water. You're mostly water, the cellular memory and membrane. I mean, Dr. Emoto work is, I bring in all kinds of stuff in here, but yeah, that life force energy, that food that you're choosing chose you too, just as much. And to give honor and thanks and presence for that while I'm cooking. I got in a spat with Jeff while I was making soup one day. I was chopping vegetables. I'm like, I'm sorry, carrots. I'm sorry, Jeff. I'm like, I had to clear with everybody.
We're giving them that energy.
Yeah, Yes.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't eat that. You don't want to eat pissed off food, so you have to clear all of that. So yes, I
Yeah.
may be a little more, I may take it to the extreme, but I do believe, I mean, I don't get, knock on wood, I don't get sick.
Yeah.
I don't break down. I honor it. And Maya's absolutely correct. I mean,
I don't think that's extreme at all,
I use
though.
a lot of energy with this work, but yet I replenish that energy
Yeah.
to maintain that. And I don't understand how some practitioners or healers or psychics or whatever they want to call themselves aren't taking care of this vessel. It's like, but whether they're gifted or talented or not, I still feel you would be even more of a a pillar of connection.
Yeah.
As this
Absolutely.
antenna of energy, if having that. And I absolutely believe I created my partner Jeff as a result for that, because I was on that path.
Yeah.
Oh, I just want to be out here in the astral etheric planes, and why is my back hurt? Why is my hips hurt? Why is my neck hurt?
Well, and I think that's such a good point, because it's the foundational work is just as important. They actually both need each other, and like you said, if we're not addressing that, then we won't really get far in the other direction. So it has to be a balance.
It doesn't matter. It's true. It doesn't matter. Like if Jeff's clients come just to see him for the exercise coaching and the physical restoration and integration, at some point he will still say, and now I invite you to go talk to Rosanne. And I have clients that they just want to come. I just want to come for coaching, and I'm like, look, you're not eating well. Why don't you set up a free consultation with Jeff? And so we do. Yeah. We meet everybody wherever they are, and at some point you do. It's obvious. You can see where the balance or imbalance lies.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a couple of things I find I notice a stair stepping of, even when we haven't done much talk about this, but there's the rite of passages of certain stages in our lives that culture has been showing up to show that we've kind of moved away from it. Other cultures still use it, but we kind of have bypassed this. It's either the sweet 16 and you get the big car, and the father, you figure,
yes.
But you don't really notice what, like I like to say, is the endocrine system has shown up in my life. And Allison and I have talked about this many times, about how as we're progressing into our older years, that we have to relearn how to take care of our body, because it's a whole other ball game going on. We didn't, you learn from the one aspect of health and how fitness and everything works in one way. Then as we go back into the midlife, and then we go into our older years, these are another step back of how do I take care of my physical body in this stage, not just but overall, this stage. Yeah. Because we as women have a lot of hormonal changes changing throughout our system, especially kids, not having kids. What does that do to your system? Do we overbook ourselves and not be able to take, care of ourselves because we're trying to do everything, because we're trying to be Wonder Woman,
Oh, right.
and to say that is empowering is not just it is an empowering to know that Wonder Woman is in us, but do we know what it means to embody that? So and the other thing I find is, when we talk about going too fast too quickly and in pushing ourselves, I always love Alan Watts' statement is that when you get the call, you hang up. Like, okay, you can call back later, but and I'm like, yeah, I get that now. That kind of came to me I was just like, yep, I'm done for now. I got to work with what I got,
Totally.
So.
And that is honoring yourself. And I'm sure you both have met clients that have, and we know some that are like, I'm going to go to this workshop and that workshop and that, and I'm going to go to that, ceremony and that over here and this, and then they are just a mess because they have not stopped and taken the time to integrate or honor. And like you said, and going back to, even bringing it down just to us as women, you're right. I mean, I'm going to be 43 next month, and I have friends that are going through friends and family that are going through menopause right now. And my body has adjusted, but I'm not going through that. And so I definitely know, the principles, but you're right. I honor my body and I listen. And it's like, I don't want to eat that anymore, but I want to eat more of this now. And that I've noticed has changed. And so just being aware, but being graceful and nurturing, especially with us women and,
Yes.
you know, women with children. It's like, I'm sure you all know them. We get to remind them to love and nurture themselves first, and that it's not being selfish or taking in any way. It's like you've got to fill yourself up before anybody else. And that's been a big one, to allow myself to have that time and not own the illusion of guilt about it. It's like, no, I'm gonna have time for me today, and that's gonna be okay. And it doesn't happen very often with multiple businesses, but I'm working on it.
That's good. At least you're working on it, right? It is funny, you know, because that kind of thing, it sounds like, oh, that's easy, right? But actually, it has taken me a lot of time to get to that point, you know, a lot of work or layers to peel off or whatever. Yeah.
It is. It's a self-honoring, because we're taught everything opposite of that. Like, do for others, get them to love you and validate you and affirm you. And it's like, wait, no. And again, going back to that inner child, the more I love and honor and validate myself, or even acknowledge, like, it wasn't this long ago that I was having a moment, and I was like, I just talked to my inner child. I'm like, I don't even know how to nurture you right now. And allowing myself to cry and just heal it, experience that experience. And then it left, and I was okay to continue on. But especially with our partners, when we get pissy and we get fussy, I say we're not exempt. I tell my clients, I said, we just have different tools. And so Jeff and I will look at each other and be like, wait, we're not meeting our own emotional needs right now. Okay. And he'll be like, okay, you take tomorrow off, go get a massage. I'll take Friday off. Okay, done.
That's great.
And then everybody's happy. But we have the tools. Doesn't mean that, life doesn't get us sometimes. But
well, it's not about perfection. It's about, being able to have the tools accessible and using them, integrating them, basically.
It's integration. Back again.
And I think I really appreciate that you guys are great mentors for people who are in that different a different world, in terms of most people who start businesses or try to become something too quickly, or you both have your own balance of what you provide, and then you work with each other on that level. Like, okay, I specifically like doing this work, and he likes specifically doing this work, and when we then interchange. So go to this one and talk to this person, because it's that ability to complement each other in a way that shows, like, this can be everything that you need it to be. It's just about when and where and how. And you guys do this beautiful dance in my eyes, that you kind of work with each other. And so I really commend you for really working even harder to get people to come and do the same thing.
Thank you. Yes, it is. And he's been on this journey with me for 7 years. And I mean, when I met Maya. Why did I meet you both at the same time? That first Journeys of Wisdom several years ago? Was that Carlsbad? I think I met Maya before I met Allison.
I think you did. Yeah.
And then I met you on the second one. But it was, and I've worked with Maya, personally, when going through those flames of my hell at that point. I was going through a horrible divorce, and I created this beautiful soul to be the perfect punisher for me in my movie or my story. And Jeff showed up around that time, and I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, this is the worst time like anybody could possibly be or see me. And I didn't want to even see myself. And he's like, this is where the universe brought me. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And he's the first partner it's the first partner that I created that was willing to do this work. And he's a beautiful reflection.
It's a big deal. Yeah.
It is a big deal, because it's not easy work, and to keep with it as you progress in a relationship has many other things of commendability. I mean, I say it not in a conceited or ego way. I say in a way that commends you for being so, as you say, graceful, and I think courageous in a way that makes you find that I'm able to hit my vulnerability, and I know you're still here.
Yes, he's very good at being witness. and allowing me,
As
and
you,
that was
and no less you cannot be for him, because there's no
yes.
way you two couldn't be the same in that
Right.
aspect, because then it wouldn't work.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
Yes, we do reflect back a lot, but yeah, he's definitely stepped into his spirituality, and he helped me, get grounded. I mean, I didn't even know what grounding was. Literally, I had no idea what that was until I met him. He's such an earth energy. He's
Sounds like a perfect partnership to me. Because we can't do it all the time, Sometimes we need each other.
It's like, you don't know how to breathe. I'm like, oh. He was my practitioner. I hired him. Yes.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It is total the yin and the yang. Sure, it's beautiful, but it's interesting how, and I don't know if you notice this with your partners, how you you merge, and then the other one will start to take on the other one's roles. And I remember when I met Jeff, he was like, just be, and I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Like, what do you mean, just be? And then he started getting all, when we opened the business, then all of a sudden he got into this, like, his doingness, and he'd come into the lounge and he's like, why are the pillows crooked, and why is it, he's a very much a Virgo, and I was like, babe, just be, and he's like, what?
that's the ego trip that says you're not allowed to be like that. That means that I'm like, wait,
I'm like you now.
The reflection, the ultimate reflection, right there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what I mean by the ability to progress in that. And then progress means that you're willing to have someone progress with you in a way that challenge you even more. Like you and his energy has this way of saying, I catch you in your illusions, and I'm willing to.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, and someone that's
for the radio.
and someone that's willing to actually work on it with you is huge too, because some people just want to just leave and say, no, I didn't sign up for this, or so when you find somebody like that,
we've all experienced that, and that was that hit home very, very strongly with my ex-husband. So I was very clear, and so through that experience, but again, it was divinely planned. There was no mistake. I had to marry that one and divorce that one, because I would have never opened myself up to somebody like Jeff, or my experience of Jeff, and that was exactly what neither one of us thought this was going to be. We're going to celebrate our 7th year anniversary.
Congratulations.
This year, so thank you. So it has been, but we're constantly, I said something to him the other day as being smart, and I'm like, well, you're stuck with me now, and he's like, I'm not stuck with anything. He's like, we choose. He was so cute.
I can hear him saying that, actually.
Totally straight face, and he's like, I'm not stuck with anything. He's like, no, you choose to do the work.
You have to say, I own you, because I created you.
Right, you did. You created each other.
I said,
try that one on. I used that on Bob. He was like,
"It's like what? What are you talking about?"
They know.
Yeah.
Right. Until it backfires on me and he uses it against me. So then I'm oh yeah, okay, my own work up.
Totally. Oh, he would too. Yes.
So Maya, is there anything else you want, and Rosanne, anything else you guys want to hit on before we close it up here?
I'd just like to offer, if anybody wants to come or is in the Orange County area, if you'd like, I'm offering to any of Allison and Maya's listeners today, if you do hear this podcast, then you're invited to the Float Lounge to experience a little Lucia Light show.
Cool.
And if you're not in the Orange County area and you'd like to have a little conversation, I'll do a 20-minute free coaching Skype or phone.
Awesome. And I'll include your website on the link under the podcast and the YouTube video. Do you want to go ahead and just tell everybody the best way to find you and all that? Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. You can always find me at thefloatlounge.com. We're also thefloatlounge.com on Instagram, Yelp, Facebook. You can message us. Our work line is 949-715-5565. And if you're looking to set up private sessions, please give me a call direct at 949-378-5809.
Cool. Thank you so much, Rosanne, for coming on our show. That was
you.
awesome. Yeah.
It was
Thanks,
awesome to be
Rosanne.
with you, girls. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was.
We like to tell you that you're now part of our integrated family.
Yeah.
Thank you.
By the
already
way,
assumed I was.
yeah, definitely. You've been there for a while.
You had to have the official invitation.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
you
right.
can't
Now it's
Honored.
official.
No. So much
And
fun. Anytime, girls. I love it.
we've just created a Facebook page too, so definitely everyone in the audience, check it out. It's Integrate Yourself podcast page on Facebook. We really actually just created that. Maya put that together so that we could have a more of a connection with our listeners after the shows, and if anybody had questions or any input or additions that they wanted to talk about, that's a good place to do it. So definitely check out Integrate Yourself podcast Facebook page and comment, and feel free to connect with us there too. So
yes,
yeah.
and you want to plug anything that you've got going on, or anything that you'd like to share with us in the next couple, whatever months that you're going to be doing your retreats or whatever you're doing next.
Thank you.
We'd like to help spread the word.
Oh, thank you, ladies. I
You're
absolutely
welcome.
appreciate that very much, since we're still not really sure how this is evolving, but we know we're divinely guided. I went to the property when we first saw it, and I gave a little offering to the land and the home,
nice.
and it's, there is Native American energy up there, and it's beautiful, sacred mountain, but it happened so fast. I was like, uh-oh. Then I was like, there's a lot more work for myself.
Right.
But it's definitely a stepping stone for something. So I'm grateful for your love and your support as always.
Yeah. Thank
you.
you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Yeah. Great
You
to see you,
too.
Rosanne.
And yes, I will. I'll share your Facebook page as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.